Well, good afternoon. Very unusual for me to be presenting to a screen as opposed to a live audience, but I'll do my best not to look as though I'm surprised. Anyway, let me just start by saying who I am. My name is Noel Hunter. I chair the Consumer Code for Home Builders, and my background is in regulation and consumer advocacy. I led a trading standards department. I'm currently a vice president of the Chartered Trading Standards Institute, and previously was a consumer advocate on the National Consumer Council, the Financial Services Authority, and the Banking Code Standards Board. We have a chief executive who works close to me, who's a former qualified trading standards officer and also a former ombudsman. So we have a strong regulatory consumer advocacy background in what we do to manage the code. It's also about fair competition. Not just about consumer protection. And fair competition is something we see as very important to the ethos of the code, making sure that it's a level playing field for home builders and for those who work on behalf of home builders. But essentially, it is there to protect consumers. The regulation at all stages of the purchase is important to us. When I say we regulate at all stages of the purchase, I mean pre-sales. We're involved in that stage of the process, during the sale process, and after sales as well. And the code does have teeth. It has enforcement powers, and it also can award up to £50,000 in awards to consumers who have been let down by the developer or the builder. So it is about making sure that road developers are taken away from the marketplace, and we do have that power to do that through the relationship we have with warranty bodies. Let me just say a little bit about the background. And around about 2008, the Barker Review came out, which raised significant concerns about the industry, and that was reinforced by the Office of Fair Trading. The Office of Fair Trading, by the way, is now the Competition and Markets Authority, and some of you may know that the CMA is producing a report on the house building industry at the end of this month, so something to look out for. So the OT report confirmed concerns with the industry and the fact that there was a very low level of satisfaction with home building generally. So the industry, in a sense, at that point was given two choices: sort yourselves out, or we will regulate. And that was what government was saying to them. And there were several false starts, but by about 2010, the industry had established the Consumer Code for Home Builders, which I've been chairman of since that time, and it covered the whole of the UK. The code was there to ensure there was fair competition, but also, more importantly, consumer protection for the buyers of new homes. The strength of the code is that the code is mandatory in relation to warranties provided by LHBC, Premier Guarantee, LABC, and Checkmate, in that if you have a warranty for one of those bodies, then the code immediately applies to the transaction you're involved in. So if you're selling under these warranties, you must comply with the code. And if you don't comply with the code, then you could be expelled from the scheme and from warranty cover. So that's quite a severe penalty. It would effectively put you out of business if there is a significant non-compliance. The code, as it stands at the moment, covers over 90% of UK home builders, and it's accredited by the Chartered Trading Standards Institute, which is the body that represents trading standards officers across the UK, but has an accreditation role for codes of practice, a scheme which was established under the Fair Trading Act of 1973, and is one which continues to be of huge importance and regulates many industries across the marketplace. So claiming that you comply with the code and you don't could also leave you vulnerable to consumer protection law, which is criminal law. So it is hugely important that whichever your standpoint is, you are complying with the code and are seen to be complying with the code. Since the early days of the Barker Review and the Office of Fair Trading Review, there has been significant change. But the big question is, has the code made a real difference? Well, you see from the figures on this screen that there has been an improvement. The original figures identified during the time of the OFT report were around the 50% mark of satisfaction. So it has gone up significantly. And we have noticed, it's fair to say, a sea change in attitudes to consumers within the industry, which is very encouraging. But it's clearly in the interests of business to comply with the code and to ensure that consumers are satisfied. The best businesses, the most successful businesses, make sure that customer care is paramount, that getting it right first time is part of their ethos of operations. And so the question remains, have we got there? Well, these figures suggest that we have made progress, but if only 88% are satisfied with quality and only 81% are satisfied with business builders' services or the services of developers, then we need to make further progress still. We would expect to see these figures in the high 90% rather than this level. So there's still work to be done and progress to be made. Moving on. There have been, of course, some quite high-profile quality issues referred to in the press. Many instances where the press have pointed to poor quality build. And in 2017-18, APPG, an all-party parliamentary group on housing, suggested that the controls on the industry should be strengthened and there should be better redress arrangements. That was reinforced by the Building Safety Act in 2022 that suggested there should be a statutory ombudsman and a single code. A year or so back, there was a new code developed. The New Homes Quality Board and a New Homes Ombudsman was established. And there have been some myths around that, which we ought to explode in that there is not a requirement to join any particular code. You are at liberty to join any of the codes that exist in the marketplace, and there are about half a dozen at the moment that do operate. So you are at liberty to join those. There is no mandatory code. There's no statutory code in existence at this stage. And there is no statutory ombudsman either. So the one positive thing that's happened is that all of the codes are now aligned and there is consistency in what they cover. They are broadly similar in what they cover and the protections they give to consumers. Whichever warranty scheme you're under, it's likely you must comply with a code of practice. So the warranty codes linked to codes. Most codes have very similar requirements, and complying with codes provides a roadmap for good customer service. Ours is the only code, in fact, to run an inspection regime alongside that. So one of the things we do is to inspect the front end, what it looks like for the consumer. So we go to the sales points using a team of qualified trading standards officers. We go to the sales points of where homes are being sold, new homes are being sold, not to catch you out, but to look at what is actually happening at the consumer interface. We also go to estate agents if they're acting on behalf of new home sellers. And what we find is communicated to the chief executives of new home bodies to ensure that they can put things right. We're not there, say, to catch people out. We're there to make things better and to put things right. So we will advise chief executives what needs to be done to improve the situation in their companies. Obviously, if the situation don't improve and things continue to be poor, then we will make sure that further action is taken. It might be just worth mentioning some of the common breaches that occur that we find at the front end. Complaint handling is a common breach, and one of the things that we find is not always handled well. Sometimes after sales service is not good. We've found also incorrect pre-purchase information being given, and sometimes reservation fees have been withheld incorrectly. And one of the ongoing problems has been misleading statements about the product, the house, and both in sales and advertising material. Quite serious issues when they occur. We actually provide quite extensive information to support compliance, so you're not on your own in that. And it's on our website. I'll give you the website details before we finish today. And whether you're a home buyer or a home seller or an agent or a lawyer, there is a section of the website which is suitable for you to go onto to get information to support your interests. So I urge you to take compliance seriously. It's about good customer care. It is about your reputation. And it's your reputation as a builder or a developer that must be the most precious to you. So if you comply with the code and honour the principles within the code, your reputation will be protected, and that will enhance your position with your customers. When you get things wrong, it's important to learn from them, and you will occasionally get things wrong. We all do. So it's important to ensure that you return that mistake into training and make sure your staff are well trained, and that training is a continual process. And you're only as good as the team that represents you in your front line with the consumer, with the home buyer. Going on to the resources available to you on our website, if I can just deal with that for a moment, there are quite a number of things available to you there. We have a compliance checklist, we have a sample reservation agreement, we have complaints handling guide. And can I just emphasize that point? Complaint handling is something that lets a lot of companies down, not just in the new home sector, but across the marketplace. And having a very effective complaints procedure is very important to you. It means that the problems get sorted out before we have to get involved. So your consumers come back to you to deal with their complaints rather than have to come to us or to the warranty body to deal with their complaints. And if you can sort them out, you send away a satisfied customer and somebody who will not be complaining further to anybody else. We also have on there getting it right first time fact sheets and how you learn from disputes. We have a compliance pack for builders and for agents. So it helps you to comply with the code, and a transition pack if you're moving from the original code to the new code, which has changed from the 1st of January this year, to update it. And it now deals with quality issues as well as all of the things we dealt with previously. There's also, I would just point out, a distance learning pack for your sales team and anybody else who's dealing directly with customers. And that's well worth plugging into. It's something your team can do online and get a certificate for. And perhaps if I can deal with complaints finally, I think there are many complaints that we deal with. Many complaints that come to the industry don't get handled directly by us. Many complaints are handled at source by you, by the builder, by the developer. And we encourage that. So thousands of complaints under the code get dealt with first time by the developer or builder. Some, if they are more complex and there is a dispute, can be dealt with by the warranty body. And where all else fails, they come to us as vexatious complaints, which are dealt with then through an independent dispute resolution service. And that's handled by for us by an independent body, an internationally renowned dispute resolution service, which handles the complaints, and their decisions are binding and should be acted on by the developer if they rule against you, and can be taken through the courts if in fact the satisfaction is not delivered. So a very important process that is handled down the line if complaints occur. Let me finish by reminding you that the code is a first-class marketing tool, something that many companies, Enlighten companies, have recognised, that saying you comply with the code which is accredited by the Chartered Trading Standards Institute, an approved code which is done under the government auspices, That's a very powerful marketing tool, something that will give confidence to your buyers, and something which demonstrates your customer focus. And my top tips in relation to that are that you promote the logos, which you see on these screens, the fact that it is a consumer code, the fact it is approved by the Chartered Trading Standards Institute and therefore by government, and you make training a priority. Showcase your good service. Be proud of what you achieve. Show the good service that you're offering, and your commitment to your consumers, to your buyers, and share your successes. Share them with us. Make sure you share them through social media, and we will share good examples of good practice as well on our website too. So very important that that is done. Regulators like us are in the business of helping you grow as a business, and not to hold you back. And that's very much a statutory requirement. Thank you for listening. That concludes my presentation, but can I just say again that what I've been talking about is consumer protection. It's about making sure there's a fair marketplace for developers, that it's fair competition between developers. And to help you, there is a website, which is shown on the screen, which has an extensive range of information that is available to you. And if you need any further information from us, we are, of course, very happy to provide it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Noel, for joining us at Show Home Live and for informing us about the consumer codes and the importance that they have and the role that they play when it comes to making sure that house builders are being compliant. I wanted to clarify the sort of interconnection between the four stakeholders involved. So the consumer, the developer, the consumer code, and also possibly the warranty provider. So could you just explain in a little bit more detail about how the interrelationship takes shape?
Okay, well, let's just talk about the journey that a consumer might take. So a consumer will come into a sales office, let's assume, or an estate agent, and we'll see a home for sale. Now, when the consumer starts to take an interest in that home, they're covered by the code, because the code requires that the information that's provided to the consumer is fair and honest and complete. And that information has to be conveyed accurately to them, and they should be made aware that a consumer code is there to protect them at the same time. So they become immediately aware on the beginning of the sales process that there's a consumer code there to protect them. When they get into the process of buying the home, and we get to a point where a lawyer is involved or a conveyancer is involved, then the lawyer will receive a copy of the consumer code alongside the details of the home that the consumer is going to buy. And so the lawyer becomes involved at that point, because they're the agent for the consumer and will be looking after their legal interests. During the course of that process, there may be changes. The house may be in the course of construction, for example, and there may be some minor changes that take place, which are important to the consumer. And they may be minor for the builder, but they might be quite important for the consumer. For example, they can't get the same color brick that they proposed to have originally, and it's going to be a slightly different color, or different color window frames, or different types of window frames. Those sort of things that might aesthetically change the appearance of the building. So there's a requirement through the code that those changes should be notified to the consumer as they go through. And let's take it to the point where the consumer now has got the home and has found defects in the home that they're concerned about. They would go back to the builder initially, and the builder will hopefully put those right. And most builders will put them right and sort it out. But if the builder doesn't put it right, the next route of recourse may well be to the warranty body. Now, the builder has a responsibility for the first 2 years after purchase, and then the warranty body kicks in. But they are for structural problems. But if there is a dispute about a structural problem with the builder in the first 2 years, then the warranty body might get involved. But if it's not a structural problem, but it's a aesthetic problem in terms of what has been presented and defects that are there in the home, or there was a misdescription of some description that has come to light, then if there is a continuing dispute and the builder does not honour that, it will then come to us as a consumer code. So we're the backstop, if you like, dealing with vexatious complaints. And so we would get involved at that point, and those complaints will be referred to our independent dispute resolution service, which I mentioned in the presentation, who are an internationally renowned company who will work totally independently and make a judgment and award, if it is justified, anything up to £50,000 to the consumer in recompense for the problem that has occurred. And the builder must meet that decision. If the builder doesn't meet that decision, then the consumer could take them to court if they wished, or the builder may well leave themselves vulnerable to being no longer within the code of practice and could lose their ability to get a warranty and therefore to trade. So it's quite a severe penalty at the end if the builder doesn't fulfill their obligations.
Well, thank you for clearing that up for us. And going back to the topic of the most common defects, what would you say that those are? What are the most common issues that arise?
Well, it's interesting, complaint handling. This is why I made an emphasis during the course of the presentation that having a good complaints procedure is important. Do you have a complaints procedure in your business? If so, who handles the complaints? Who is responsible? What are you asking for consumers to do to register a complaint with you? What are you doing to acknowledge that complaint? What are you doing to resolve that complaint? It should all be set out in a process so that your team, your staff know about it, and they know what to do if a complaint comes to them. And that if you are the director of the company, or you're a manager of the company, or the owner of the company, that you know what's happening in your company. In my experience, chief executives, managers, owners of companies want to know what's happening in their company at the front end. So they're plugged into the complaints procedure as well. They are notified of what's going on. So that complaints procedure is hugely important. So that's the first thing. And quite often the complaints we have are about an inadequate complaints procedure, complaints not being handled very well. Another issue is about after sales service, that when a house is sold, the service that they should get afterwards there should be somebody who is a link for the after sales service in the company. And that link should respond effectively and efficiently to their inquiries. If that's not happening, and we do get complaints about that, then the code covers that as well. Sometimes about incorrect pre-purchase information. And the description of the property is adequate, or they've not been kept in the loop about changes to the property, which I mentioned earlier. Those sort of things happen again occasionally as well. Sometimes the purchase process ends because the consumer has put a reservation fee down, and for one reason or another, the purchase does not continue. They're entitled to get that reservation fee back, maybe with some slight deduction for legal fees that have been incurred, but they should get the reservation fee back, and the reservation fee hasn't been returned. That's a complaint we get from time to time. And finally, one which is quite a common one as well is misleading information in the sales or advertising material, where misdescriptions occurred, and we get all sorts of misdescriptions that may occur. Sometimes about the description of room sizes, or the description of the number of rooms, or the equipment that was going to be installed in the premises, perhaps the location of the premises, and so on. Things that are important to a consumer, which are importantly covered by other legislation too. Consumer protection regulations, which criminal law, also cover that they should be told about things that may be affecting their interest in the property. For example, is the property going to be built near a major main road, which is about to be developed? Is there going to be a school built right next to their property, or something else that may disturb their enjoyment of the property in some way? So those sort of things should be passed over. They should be told about the environment in which the property is being built, and made clear about anything that may be detrimental to their interests.
And just to finish off, Noel, what would be your advice to house builders in terms of being informed and staying up to date with possible changes or updates to consumer codes?
All right. Well, we do quite a lot to try and do that. There's a lot of time making sure our website's up to date, and we're doing that almost on a daily basis. So there's a lot of information on our website. It's we're quite proud of our website. We think it's pretty intuitive. It's pretty easy to follow, and as I mentioned before, it's got sections which apply to your level of interest. If you go in as a builder or developer, there's a section there for you. You go in as a lawyer, there's a section there for you, and even as a buyer, there's a section for you. So we encourage you to go into the website and have a look at it. We also produce a bulletin, which again goes on our website, but we deliver it directly to you if you want it. So if you let us know you want it delivered directly to you to an email address, we'll make sure you're on our email distribution list. And basically, what that bulletin does, it gives you all the changes that are happening over time. We try not to change the code too often. We usually review it every 3 years, and we've just done a review recently and introduced some changes. So we let you know about those changes, but we also try to let you know about the sort of things that are going right as well as the things that are going wrong in the industry, so that you can learn from those things. So if there's good practice, we share the good practice. If there's things going wrong on a regular basis, like poor information in sales leaflets or something like that, we share that as well, so you can look at your sales material and see if you're getting it right. So those are sort of important things that we try to draw to your attention. The bulletin comes out at about 3 to 4 monthly intervals, but there's regular information going on the website as well. So keep your eyes open for that.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a very helpful and accessible resource that you've just mentioned there, the website. So thank you once again, Noel, for joining us.
I just finally say we're not above criticism ourselves. So if anybody listening to this has got any points they want to make to us, things you think we can do better in terms of getting information to you, or things that you think are problems we ought to know about in terms of your perspective, please let us know. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Judge.